Hi, everyone. My name is Dr. Alisa Kauffman. I'm a geriatric house call dentist in New York City. I've created this show, Caring and Able, to look for the best resources to help caregivers and the elderly find services to fulfill their needs. This includes services like at-home dentistry, concierge physicians, concierge podiatrists, and even services like florists. I'll also include products such as walkers that'll help you get out of your chair and other great innovations. I'd like to talk about ableism as opposed to disabilities and not being able to do things. With the help of the list of people that we're going to give you, you will get a lot out of these webinars. And then you'll be able to make an educated choice and not just rely on Yelp reviews or Google reviews, which we know are not always accurate. Today is our very first Caring and Able webinar, and I cannot be more happy than to choose one of my favorite people that I've met in the last 3 years, actually 2 years, Dr. Rachel Klein. Dr. Rachel Klein, she joined our network, Geriatric House Call Dentistry, 2 years ago. And I service New York City, and she services Queens and Nassau counties. And believe me, we need more people like her. There's no one in Staten Island, and there's no one in Brooklyn, and we are looking for dentists who want to join us because we get about 5 phone calls a day for Brooklyn. And we just have 2 hands and 2 feet and 2 feet. We have 2 feet, 2 hands, and we have 2 feet and 1 car each. So we can't get to Brooklyn, unfortunately. A little background on Dr. Klein. She graduated NYU Dental in 1997, and she completed her GPR at Long Island College in Brooklyn Heights. And this comes from her. One day while she was reading the Metro section in the New York Times, she read an article about house call dentistry featuring me. She claims that she searched me out until I took her under my wings, and the rest is history. She's also a wife, a mother, and a grandmother. What a young grandmother, and believe me, I am jealous of that. And so I want to welcome Dr. Rachel Klein to our first webinar, Caring and Able.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. So basically, interviewing you will be like interviewing myself because we do the same things, and pretty much I taught you everything you know. But I can't interview myself, so I'm going to interview you, and hopefully you'll know the answers to the questions. I'm just joking, of course you do. So let's start out with, what kind of services do you offer?
Well, we do cleanings, we do examinations and consultations and emergencies. We make dentures, we fix dentures, we do extractions, and we can do after an extraction, a full mouth denture, or we can do an extraction and add 1 tooth to the denture. We do bridges, we remove bridges, we can make the bridge a temporary if somebody lost it. Let's see what else we do. Small fillings, and I think that pretty much covers it. I mean, yeah.
What about if somebody calls you and says that their denture that's less than 5 years old has become loose?
Well,
is there anything you can do?
Yeah, I'm going to go over there. I'm going to see how the fit is. And if I can, I'll do a reline. So that's another thing we do, yes. And if I think they've lost a lot of weight and it doesn't fit at all, then I'm going to have to make a brand new denture for them.
You know, people talk about relines, and sometimes they ask me, do you do a soft or hard reline? Maybe our viewers don't even understand the difference. And I know that you prefer to do a hard one and I prefer to do a soft one, but can you explain what a reline means?
A reline is basically when you're taking the denture and you're going to put material in there and take a new impression to make the denture fit better. And the soft one that you like, which I have used it, but for me, I find that I have a lab that's it's about a 10-minute walk from my house. So I can get the denture, take an impression, send it to the lab, and then get it back to the patient the same day. So if I can get it done by the lab, I'd rather that. I mean, it costs me a little bit more, but I know that it's going to last longer for the patient. So that's what I do.
You're absolutely right. And I think what you haven't explained, and maybe I'll add to that, is when you say you take an impression, what you do is you put material inside of the denture, and that is the impression. And then you take the denture with the impression to the lab, and then they are able to then repair it and make it like a brand new denture on the inside anyway, right?
Right.
So that's great that you can walk to your lab. I'm jealous of that. And being a grandmother, now I can add that to that. So I guess you get a lot of questions. And one of the things that I guess we talk about all the time is that people will call us not realizing that we are in New York City. So one of the first things we do when we get on the phone with a potential patient is have to interrupt them and say, excuse me, where do you live? Right? Isn't that one of the things that you have to answer all the time? Because you can't go maybe out to Montauk to do it. Yeah. So there's a problem.
I do go to parts of Suffolk, but I early on decided that an hour is my limit in the car. I can't go beyond that because it's just too much for me. It's just not worth it to sit an hour there, an hour back. Listen, I love to listen to music and sing along with the car, with the radio as much as the next person, but I can't. Yeah. It's just a waste of time.
Yeah. And, because we do house call dentistry, it's really important that, we all have stories where we forgot something and we have to go to a dental office and borrow it, whether it's like, I have my worst story ever was a woman in Brooklyn, which I rarely go to Brooklyn. I mean, you have to beg me to go to Brooklyn for this reason only. I was giving this older woman, older, maybe 101, an injection to remove a tooth, and she hit the syringe out of my hand and the needle fell on the floor. And stupidly, I only brought one needle. I mean, you only make that mistake once. I mean, so, we do practice. You have to practice to get perfect. And I walked the streets of Brooklyn asking dental offices for a needle like I was a heroin addict with my uniform and my business card. And finally, I found an office for $5 that would sell me one needle. So that's why it's so hard to go so far out of your geographically desirable area, because you never know when you really might need whatever it is. I mean, it's something so little like that costs 10 cents, but you could find a dentist that would help you and give you whatever you need. In Manhattan, I mean, it's so easy. There's like a dentist on every corner. So let's talk about another subject, which is a sore subject. One that we see on TV all the time, where Medicare brags about these new plans that pay for dental. And really, first of all, you have to be a Medicare provider, number one. Number two, we don't know how to fill out Medicare forms if our life depended on it. And number three, there's only one or two plans that actually have that. And I don't even know which ones they are. Let's talk about taking insurance. Do people ask you if you take insurance?
They do all the time, and unfortunately, we don't take insurance. And there are a lot of times people spend time talking to me, asking me questions, and then I say I don't take insurance, and they say, "Oh, I'm sorry, I'm just not going to go with you. I'm going to go somewhere else." I even went to an assisted living last week, and I met with the guy's father, and I sat and I talked to him about everything he needed, and then he said he's going to speak to the family, and after all that, they said, "Nope, we're going to go with insurance." The guy is 95 years old and doesn't have any dental insurance, so I wish they wouldn't waste time because, he needs his teeth. But,
it's a fine line between being abrupt and telling people up front, look, I don't take insurance. It's in our dental form, we let them know. But we don't accept it as payment in full. But if you have dental insurance, we will fill out the paperwork for your reimbursement for all dental services. So we don't take it, but we definitely assist in the paperwork. So that is something that we're happy to do. And some plans pay and some plans don't. And even though the ADA has codes for house calls, I've never seen one plan pay for it. It's a shame. So how do you organize your equipment and your supplies for your day?
Well, I'm going to tell you, I learned a lot that day I came to your apartment and saw how you organized everything. And I went somewhere, I think it was Target, and I bought all these boxes. I have a Tupperware box full of my, upper extraction stuff. Then I have all the stuff I need for lower extractions. I have everything I need for anesthetics. I need my operative boxes in another place. I have, my hygiene in another box. Everything is all stored neatly. And the night before I go, I look at my calendar, I look at what I'm doing, and I pack every single thing. And because of your story, sometimes 2 or 3 of things, so I don't get myself in a bind. So you learn from every mistake.
That's right. And also, I have to remember when you go home after you've done a procedure to replenish your supplies. That helps
Absolutely.
too.
Yes.
So I know you got a new drill kit. Is that working out for you?
I'm still waiting. Aseptico is supposed to deliver any day between now and Monday, so I'm excited. But my loops were the best investment I have ever made in my life, because I was sitting in the dark in apartments, not able to see, with a miner's light and a family member holding a flashlight, sometimes an iPhone light, and I'm like, this is crazy. How am I doing extractions basically blind? And I got the loops with the magnification and the light, and life is new.
Right? You got the ones that I use?
No, I ended up getting Designs for Vision because
Nice.
that's just what worked out. But
Right.
thrilled.
So basically, so our viewers know, we don't require any extra light now because we wear our own light and it's extremely, extremely bright. We don't need any additional light. I could be in a dark room and now so can you, which is great. Who's tougher to deal with, the patient or the family?
I think that's an amazing question. And I'm going to tell you that it really depends on the situation. Sometimes, obviously, it's the patient. When you have a patient with very serious dementia and they're aggressive and hitting and spitting and kicking, obviously that's the problem. Or you have family members who are very, very difficult and they want things the way they want it. They want specific teeth. I've discussed this with you. They want the denture to look a certain way. And there are a lot of times where I've spoken to their previous dentist and I've said, I tried X, Y, and Z. I don't know what else to do for this family. And the dentist will say, you will never satisfy that family because they don't know how to be satisfied. So unfortunately, you just have difficult people all around, and you have to learn to smile and deal with it.
Well, I've heard that story and you made those people happy. So I disagree. You were actually able to satisfy them. So you must have done something the last dentist didn't do. Now, I want to talk about something else, which I didn't even think about until right now. People talk about the house call dentistry model and how great it is, and it's different than the mobile dentistry model, which means that a van comes outside of your house. And I always say, especially in urban cities like Manhattan and probably even in Long Island, there's a dentist 3 blocks away. If you could get in a wheelchair and be wheeled to a mobile van or a dentist, then obviously you really don't need us. We are really great for the patient who really can't get out. And now during COVID, that includes a lot of other people that we didn't even service before. So the one thing that I actually like to talk about with my patients is the fact that, when you take your loved one to a traditional dentist, you need 2 aides. You need the service to get there.
The ambulette.
And you need the time on your hands and the worry times and the fact that there might be a stairs that the wheelchair has to go over. So basically, when it's all said and done, our fee really is the same or less than if you had gone to a traditional dentist. So that's one of the things I think our viewers should know, that it's really important to have a service like this. And unfortunately, in our network, we only have 4 people: Oregon, Chicago, Illinois, Nassau, Queens, and me, Manhattan. And, what we do is there's a real necessity for it, and we need to have more dentists. So we're looking for dentists out there if you're even looking at this webinar at some point. All right, getting on to another question. I'm going to ask you something. Go on.
I just wanted to add to what you just said. And in addition to the fact that the ambulette and everything else, I don't have to tell you that dementia patients really need to have their schedule as it is. They cannot have disruption, they cannot have change. And even just getting from the bed, the door to the van outside, it's too much for some people. And some people just cannot leave the house. I mean, I just want to tell you a quick story about a family member where I called you and I said to you, this patient bit and was aggressive to the previous dentist and the hygienist. And I was a little nervous about it, but honestly, I never told you the follow-up. I went to the kitchen, I sat with her, I talked to her, and you know what? I'm fine. She did
Wow.
not bite, she did not act. It's as if it was a completely different person. She just needed her surroundings, her aide, her daughter, people who she was familiar with, and it was fine. And that's really, what it has to be, not a
And just
man.
to, and just to add to that, I do a lot of fibbing when I see my dementia and Alzheimer patients. I know their daughter or their son's name, and I always tell them that I was sent by their daughter, Sally, and we were friends in high school, and now I'm their dentist, and I'm doing this as a big favor to Sally, and they go for it, hook, line, and sinker, and we never discuss fees. If they ask how much it is, I always tell them, oh, don't worry about it. I'm friends with Sally. Because
Mhm.
even with dementia, older people still worry about money. It's a funny thing, right? You get that.
Yeah.
It's funny. So, Rachel, tell me the craziest story you've ever encountered walking into a house or an apartment. And please don't make it a hoarder story because I have nightmares
No,
about it.
no, no.
I have
My,
many.
I know you do, and I've seen them too, but I think my story is from this summer when we started wearing much more PPE than is normal, and I needed to make a denture for a man in his house, but they didn't let me into the house. They only let me into the garage. And it was 96 degrees. It was July something, middle of July. It was some sort of crazy heat wave. It really was 102. That's what it felt like. Wearing my layers, making the denture, and then they closed the garage door because they were cutting down a tree in the yard next door. So I wish you could imagine the sweat. And I couldn't even see from all the sweat dripping down. But there's that story, and then I think about the houses that you walk into with the cats all over the place, the cats on the bed, the cats
Oh,
on the kitchen counter.
cats want to go right into our bags. The cats have to be in another room. I tell them right away that I need sterile environment and they can't have
Right.
any animals. Right.
Yeah.
Oh gosh. So yeah. Well, you don't have hoarding stories. Those I still have nightmares about. It's horrible.
Yes.
So how did you prepare to treat this underserved population?
Well, I worked in the nursing home business for over 20 years. So it's really kind of the same thing. I was doing the dentistry in the bed, it just wasn't their home. So I got a lot of experience doing the dentistry, by this side of the bed and just dealing with these people and learning to communicate with the families and just understanding how to, just be patient and kind and sensitive. And it went a long way.
Yeah, you have to be kind. That's the number one thing. Let me ask you, and I already know the answer, but so there are times that we cannot handle a patient in the home and they need an extraction and it's not safe because, we don't have everything that we need that we would in our traditional offices, even though you must be really proficient in oral surgery in order to be a geriatric dentist. How do you deal with the situations where you cannot treat the patient in their home?
Well, I actually had a patient, and she was in an assisted living in a community where I happened to have known somebody who lived in that community. So she needed full mouth extractions, and I just couldn't do that. She needed to have it done at an oral surgeon. So I called my friend who I knew lived not far. She gave me the name of an oral surgery practice. I introduced myself. I hooked them up, and next thing you know, I'm actually starting dentures for her next week. So
Oh, that's great.
yeah, so I'm excited for her because she's had to, be without teeth for a long time. So
Now we're going to get to a question and answer period. And I have a couple questions that people sent in ahead of time. And let's just try them. Okay, from Cecilia, who is a second year Columbia student. Do you think that this service should be taught in dental school?
I do. I really do, because geriatrics, I don't really remember learning half of this in dental school, and I just feel like it would have been really helpful. But I don't know if the most important thing in geriatric dentistry is just to be kind and have the right bedside manner. I don't know if that's something that can be taught, but maybe we can try and teach this to people, because I've gone to homes where people have had other dentists who have been to the house, and they say, whew, the last dentist who came here had zero bedside manner. He was rough, he was aggressive, he was, I don't want to say because it's not right, but there's a way and there's a way not to be. So I hope it could be taught. That's all I can say.
Right. I mean, maybe at least at a club after, in their third or fourth year, if they think it's something that they don't even know it exists. So
Right.
I think that Cecilia's right. It's something that they need to know about, this niche type of business. I mean, the greatest thing about it is you only need 20,000 at the most to start your own practice.
Right.
And, if you want to be part of our network, we find you the patients. So it's fabulous. Okay. From Mark, who has a mother with dementia. How do you get your dementia patients to open their mouth?
It's not easy, but you really have to talk to them slowly. And I'm not going to lie, sometimes you have to force it a little bit, but you have to just talk kindly and slowly. And with the family member or an aide there, with somebody who's going to make them feel comfortable, it can be done.
Right. Okay. And the last question, Dr. Klein, my father cannot get out of his bed, but needs a checkup. Can you see a patient right in their bed?
Every day. Always. It's not a problem. I mean, we could see a patient in the bathtub, in the toilet. I don't want to, but we can do it anywhere.
Right.
So,
I think the craziest place I've ever seen a patient was in their kitchen with their head against the refrigerator because they were a hoarder. And that was the only place that I could put my stuff next to the sink, and then their head would not be against a book, or don't even get me going. All right. Well, I think that's it for today. I think we learned a lot about geriatric house call dentistry, and I thank you, Dr. Klein. And I thank you guys for listening to the first Caring and Able webinar. The next episode will be about an innovation. It's a toothbrush robot. It's called willow.com. We're going to talk to another dentist, but he doesn't practice geriatric house call dentistry. He practices pediatric dentistry. And we are going to show you a toothbrush, and Rachel, you will love this, that the patient can brush all of their top teeth at one time with a tray system. It brushes all of your teeth, and it's with toothpaste and everything, and then it rinses your mouth out and it goes right into the sink. So you don't have to do anything. So it's very exciting, and we look forward to having you back on again, Dr. Klein. And that was a pleasure. Not that I don't speak to you every day, but it's great that you are my very first guest on Caring and Able. So I thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. Anytime.